an international network of people from all over the world who are committed to bringing books and young people together. The subject for today's episode is nutrition writing, which is a non-fiction genre focusing on health and food, especially on how to make positive changes on eating habits, how to make better food choices, and also on health problems that may arise from eating poorly. In the studio today, we have the president of IBBY Malaysia, or better known as MBBY, DATO KHAIRUDDIN. Welcome, Dato. And Dato Reza today brings along with him a very special guest, Madam Mohana Gill, who has won various awards for her books on food and nutrition. Welcome, Puan Mohana.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to Dato first before go into Puan Mohana. Dato Reza, you are the second president of IBBY Malaysia for more than 2 years. How has IBBY Malaysia progressed in promoting children's and book?
Yeah. Thank you, Prof. Well, IBBY Malaysia is not too young in terms of age. We've been around for many years. My involvement in IBBY started since 2006. And over the years, I think there's been a lot of progress made in Malaysia as well as the international scene for IBBY Malaysia. I mean, the most notable at the international scene, Malaysia has hosted the IBBY Asia Oceania Regional Conference in 2015, which was a successful event. And then we have participated in various competitions, various submissions of work. Notable among them will be the honor list, which we will be discussing in detail later. And of course, moving forward, the highlight of IBBY Malaysia's existence will be our hosting of the 38th International IBBY Congress to be held in September 2022 in Putrajaya. So we will be the 38th host of this international congress, which may see up to 800 delegates from all the world converging onto Putrajaya, hopefully. And we will be among the very few or the first Southeast Asian country to host the IBBY Congress. That's something that we look forward to.
You were the president of IBBY International for 2 terms. And where is Malaysia actually? You know, of course, you experience with countries around the world, where is Malaysia in the world arena as well as far as books and children?
That's a difficult question, Prof. But when I was IBBY president from 2010 till 2014, and I would regard those years as a postgraduate course for me personally, but it was very exciting and eventful 2 terms. In terms of standing, Malaysia is highly regarded in terms of its of the country itself, where we have the multiracial, multi-religious component in our society that has existed peacefully over the years. The world is impressed or excited about how we have progressed in terms of physical development, educational development, how much of English is being used, and so on. At the same time, our books in terms of children publication While we are recognized, at the same time there has been some expressions of concern with regards to our momentum in terms of continued production of high quality books, given the background that Malaysia has. People are asking, where are your stories? What do your children read? Given that the country has made tremendous progress in terms of physical development, economic development, and education as well. And the fact that Malaysians tend to read a lot of books coming from other countries, particularly the English-speaking countries, speaks a lot about the Malaysian society's ability to either purchase, in terms of economic value, purchase books from overseas, as well as to read and comprehend. So what they are saying is that, so there is great potential as well for local stories and local literature. And that is where I believe Malaysia should step up its pace in these publications of Malaysian stories by local authors, and especially in areas where we can contribute to the world in terms of content. For example, like what Madam Mohana does. That's global content, if you ask me, from a very niche perspective. So I suppose we are there, Prof. We are there. We are recognized. The fact that I'm still in the executive committee, and the fact that we have been approved, or we have successfully bidded and won to host the 38th IBBY Congress. So I believe we are there in terms of that. Thank you.
Okay, Dato. Let's move on to IBBY Honor List, where Mohana's book was in that list last year. Can you explain to us what is IBBY Honor List and why it is so significant, and what is its role actually to promote good quality books?
As you mentioned, Prof, IBBY stands for bringing books and children together. IBBY stands for narrowing the divide between the developed nations and the less fortunate nations in terms of books, publications, reading, and so on. IBBY strives to enable children from all over the world, in whatever economic background they live, to enjoy books and reading. So within the huge base of IBBY members, as of today we have 80 countries as IBBY members throughout the world, and Malaysia is one of them. We celebrate the diversity and the success of publications of children literature in all countries. So the IBBY Honor List, which is produced every 2 years, is a manifestation of the best stories from each country, published, nominated by the national sections and vetted by IBBY International and approved as the stories that of the best genre or quality, and they represent stories that is suitable for the whole world. So an insight into this honor list will give us an insight into the diversity of each country, cultural, economic, and social standing, and allows a greater understanding to be forged amongst the readers, amongst members, between nations, and so on. So it stands out as a very important documentation coming out from IBBY, where we do not discriminate, in the sense that every country will be able to nominate and will be accepted to be showcased as the IBBY Honor List. And these honor lists are celebrated, documented, and we have permanent collections of this IBBY Honor List in various places of the world, including Zurich, as well Tokyo, at the International Youth Library, and of course Malaysia is one of the only country within our region to have the full collection of the IBBY Honor List since 2014, because there's only 7 sets available throughout the world. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Now, Puan Mohana, But of course, I want, because Dato, you have been with Puan Mohana for a long time, right? So you know her very well. And you saw her progressing from 2006, where you began writing, and until now, you have become an award winner. And Dato, can you probably introduce to the audience who Mohana is?
Okay, it'd be an honor for me, actually. She's someone that I admire very much for her passion, particularly in writing for children on a very specific subject. I remember watching her or observing her during some of the presentations, and we invited her to one IBBY meeting where she presented about what she's doing in the most passionate and most impactful way. And I thought we have an unpolished diamond here. You know? So Mohana's content in terms of children's stories is not only about children, but on a particular specialty. She talks about healthy eating, which relates to many other things. Relates to about what you eat, obesity, relates to diet, relates to activities, but it also touches on a very sensitive subject matter for a child. A child may not like to eat vegetables, you know. The connotation is very negative, it's green, it's yuck, and so on. But she's managed to put it in a very nice, colorful, factful way, and of course introducing Haley and all her friends into her stories, which makes stories very interesting. I'm looking at Malaysia in particular, where we have children's stories which touches on various stories, but there's a lot of fiction, there's a lot of imagination, but here is a combination of imagination and non-fiction. These are facts. And I think these stories by Mohana, even now and in the future, will continue to remain relevant, particularly for children in Malaysia and the rest of the world. And she's done a lot of research herself, and she's introduced local fruits for children and parents and to the world again. And well, I've been one of the benefactors who've actually had meals in her house where we've had delicious meals from recipes out of her books and her stories. So there's a lot of value, and this kind of content is not easily available because she has combined research, facts, and content together with her passion for children and children's stories. So that's what makes her stand out as one of the most prolific and creative writers for children genre for us.
Okay, Puan Mohana, before we jump into the book, I want to ask you some general questions first. I have been listening actually to your interviews and to your talks, and I realized that you always believe that the most important gift that you can offer to a child is the gift of food, good nutrition. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes. First and foremost, thank you so much for inviting me, Prof, and also Dato for your very generous words for me. Thank you. Yes, I think that I'm going to start off with a quotation which says that children are always the only future the human race has. Teach them well. So that's what we need to do. So when I'm talking about food, what happens is that I always say that, we worry about what a child will become tomorrow, yet we forget that he is someone today. So what happens is that when a child is born anywhere, in any part of the world, in whatever society, there's a lot of excitement. Everybody is so happy that the new baby has come in. And immediately, the parents start to think and say, which school is my child going to go to? Which university is he going to go to? Is he going to become a doctor? Is he going to become an engineer? But they forget that this little baby that they have in their arms today, even before he starts to walk, he has got to be fed. He has got to be nurtured. That is how important food is for children. So I think the best gift that we can give to our children is to show them what are the healthy foods that we should eat, how we should do all these things, because when children, as they are growing, you find that if we don't give them healthy foods, their bodies will not grow, their minds will not develop. So in order for the minds to grow and the bodies to develop, we need to give them nutritious food. And I think, because my main area of interest is fruits and vegetables, I think that one of the most important and one of the most healthy food that we can give our children are fruits and vegetables. There are so many other things as well, but for me, that is the most important. And I also feel that it doesn't matter what a child eats. Consciously, if we can make sure that the child is getting enough fruit and vegetables, I think that we are already on the road to success.
Right. Okay. We as parents, I mean, Dato is also a parent, and I myself have got chuchus and children. And what knowledge and skill should we parents, teachers have, to provide our children in Malaysia or other countries in terms of nutrition and healthy diet?
I think looking after children is one of the most difficult things in the world. I think to have a baby is very easy, but then from then on, to make sure that the child is doing the right things is very, very difficult. And I think sometimes what we do is that we look at the child and he's sitting on the table and we say, eat this, you must eat this because this is good for you, eat this. And I think once we start doing that kind of thing, we've got big, big problems. So from the beginning, I feel we need to get our children involved in this whole process of food. And you will find that children also look to the parents as role models. So if you tell your child that you've got to eat fruits and vegetables and I'm eating a hamburger every day, you've got big problems because the child is going to copy you. So I think we need, in order to show them, we've got to get them involved. And that is why sometimes in my books what I do is I think we need to take and show the child the fruit, the vegetables that we want the child to eat. And also remember that the children, the senses of the child, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of touch, all these things are also very, very important. So I think, in other words, the child must get himself completely involved in the food that he's eating, so that when he looks at a tomato, for example, and he says, it's red, the color is red, then he can smell the tomato. Let him squeeze the tomato and let him taste and see what it is like. And then slowly we can explain to him in a fun kind of way, or even by preparing food that are nutritious and put them all on the table. And and the other thing that we need to do is very important, is that we all have to, as a family, eat together. When the child sees her parent or the brother or the sister eating all these things, then he's going to look and say, well, if mommy and daddy are eating, if brothers and sisters are eating, I will also try. I know this from experience because I have a 5-year-old grandson, and I've been watching him from very, very young. And if you tell him, eat this, he will not. But you just put it, and then he sees everybody else eating, then slowly he might want to try. Then I'll tell him, would you like to try a spoon, maybe? And he'll say, okay, let me try a spoon. So I think involvement of children is a very nice way to teach them. And I think we also should not get into this whole idea of this is good and this is bad. Once you start doing that, you've got big problems. So what we can explain to them is that this is better than this one. And, you know, generally, I think 80% of the time, if the children are eating healthy food, and 20% of the time, if they go and have a hamburger or a Kentucky Fried Chicken or a McDonald's, I think that is fine. So I think we have got to be very flexible, and it has got to be done in a very easy kind of a way. And dinner times, lunch times should not be times of stress, where the mother is sitting down and say, I want you to finish this, you must finish this, you must do that. Then it becomes very, very difficult. So I think in a very nice way, you just put it all there, let him try a little bit. And sometimes we have found that a child, you've got to show him a particular fruit or a vegetable maybe 10 times, maybe 15 times before he will want to try. So bringing up children is tough, you know, and I know it is tough. So it means that as parents, we've got to have time to sit with our children, time to tell stories.
Okay, Puan Mohana, this is the book that has made into the list of IBBY Honor List 2020. Okay, and this is the character, the main character of the book.
That is correct.
Okay,
that's Haley.
Yeah, this is Haley. Right. So can you tell me more about the book?
Yes, let me tell you a little bit about the book. This book is called Haley's Fantastic Fruits. Now, to start off with, Dato, if you look at the book, it is in full color. Yeah. Full color, and it is fully illustrated. So if you open the pages of the books, you'll find that every page has got very nice colors, and it is very attractive for the child as well. And talking about illustrators, I've got to say that I am very, very lucky to have a very, very clever and an extremely efficient illustrator who has done all the illustrations for all my books. And actually, Haley is my granddaughter. So when Haley was born, I started to write this book, and I wanted a character which somehow or the other would represent Haley. So I called my illustrator, Wafen, to come to the house. And then my granddaughter was in the house as well. And she spent 2, 3, 4 hours with the child to observe the child, how she acted, what she was doing, her hairstyle and everything, and came up with this beautiful caricature of Haley. So this is Haley, and you'll find that the books are very, very child-friendly. They're child-friendly, and it has got intergenerational appeal. Although technically, it is a children's book, but even the mothers like to look at the books. That it appeals to everybody. And then this book is suitable, I think, for ages of about 5 to 10 years old. And also, I find that the books have got recipes. Every book has got 20 recipes, which the children can do either by themselves or with the help of parents. But I've also got to say that this particular book is unique, Dato. This is the first of its kind in children's literature, because we have children's cookbooks and we have children's storybooks. This book is a combination. It has got recipes for children, and it has got stories. Each book has got 3 or 4 stories about the particular fruit. Then it has also got a little bit of nutritional facts about the food. I think at this young age, we don't want to go into very technical details about calories and about nutrients, but a general idea for them to know that whatever you see in this book or whatever you're going to eat is good for you. And all the ingredients that you are going to use for the recipes are very easily available, because this book, remember, Prof, is not only for Malaysia, it is worldwide. So all the ingredients are available everywhere in the world. Whoever is reading the book can try these recipes. And in many ways, by doing this, it helps our children to create their own meals. So it's a very unique kind of a book.
There are many stories in the book. Uncle Joe's farm, the banana tree goddess, Legend of the Watermelon, and all other stories in this particular book. Where did you actually get the ideas?
Well, I thought, because this is international, right? So I wanted to put in stories that came from different parts of the world. So for example, the story about the banana is from India. The story about the watermelon comes from Vietnam. Then the pineapple story comes from the Philippines. And the pomegranate story comes from Europe. So I tried to show the children, tell them stories about fruits from different parts of the world. So for Malaysian children, for example, it probably will be easier for them to relate to banana, right? But for a child in Europe, he probably will be more able to relate to pomegranate. So that is the reason why I chose stories from different parts of the world. And also generally I think for children that they don't compartmentalize themselves as this part of the world. For them, all the children are the same. So it's good for them to know stories from different parts of the world. That's the reason why I chose these stories.
Okay, I want to ask you this question, but this question is also to Dato as well, but I want to listen to your answer. Why do you think Haley's Fantastic Fruit was selected over the other seven books? Because there are 8 books in the series. Why is this so special and it is, successfully picked up for the list?
Because I think all the other books are on vegetables, on seeds and nuts and grains, pulses, etc. But I think fruits is something that is universal. Everywhere around the world, everybody eats fruits. Maybe not everybody eats nuts, maybe not everybody eats grains, but fruits, no matter which country you belong to, no matter where you come from, the poorest person to the richest person, everybody eats fruits. So I think one of the reasons is because it has got a universal appeal. Fruits. Everybody knows about fruits and everybody loves fruits. Most people love fruits.
How do you review the book? I'm not asking you as a critic, but as a parent, as well as a person who is in the IBBY committee, probably, but of course not in the judges committee. But as a person who has already seen, all those books from various countries, but why this book was chosen?
Well, in my mind, I think Mohana's books is unique, is very appealing because number one is the content. Content is very local, very original in that sense, and it's also a showcase of local fruits. Some of the fruits may be available in other countries, but all of these fruits that she's talking about have been seen in Malaysia, they're Malaysian food. And so the appeal is actually very real. Combined with the beautiful illustrations, combined with the way the stories are being told, which are very original as well, where children are involved and how they find enjoyment in looking for the fruits or the food and eating them and so on. And it serves as a very realistic story for children. Children can relate to it. They see themselves in the picture. At the same time, it is also the way it's being written and published is also suitable as gifts. It's also suitable to be used by parents and teachers alike as a teaching aid, as an example, and so on. So it has fulfilled a lot of criteria that we look for an originality in its stories and presentation. So I think that stands out. And moreover, as I said, not many books like these are being published. So that's definitely a unique positioning of the book.
Okay. You were talking about appeal, uniqueness, and quality, right? You yourself as a publisher, Dato', what are the roles of publishers in providing interesting and high quality not necessarily nutrition book, but books in general?
Well, in this particular segment for children, I think what we publishers should be responsible for is to encourage the writings and the production of books which are very realistic in terms of the stories, its involvement of the characters. If it's a story for children, it has to have the perspective of the child. It cannot have an adult's perspective of what fun is to a child. It has to be fun for the child from the child's perspective. A child may like to jump and step on puddles, and that's fun, and there could be a story out of it. Of course, from a parental perspective, that's a no-no, you know. Then you have the advertisement for Breeze and Fab coming in, you know. Yeah. So our society tend to be very straight and regulated, and sometimes we don't get the originality of the story. I would love to see that coming out from Malaysian storytellers or authors and publishers, of course. But then again, at the same time, when there are not many books being published, then of course our society tend to like the stories coming from overseas. And a fine example which I always like to quote many times is books about Christmas. Malaysians love these books about celebrating Christmas, where there's the snowman, the snow, and the marshmallows and all the stuff. But these are not real for a Malaysian child. More so for a child who lives in a kampung. So therefore it's just a casual reading exercise for many children in Malaysia. It's just, if the book happened to be there, I'll look at it, but I will not derive the true value of the story. Because it's not realistic, it's not related to me. Some kids who have been fortunate enough to be able to travel overseas and enjoy snow, for them, yes, that relates to them. So there's a gap. However, if we have a children's story about the real life of a child who goes to a Malaysian school and who's unable to play in the field because of the heavy rain, the downpour that took place, and as a result of the downpour, there's a mud puddle in there, and he walks by it, he slipped and fell and dirtied his pants and shirt and so on, got laughed at by his friends and got scolded by his mother for coming home dirty. That would probably be a more exciting and realistic story for a child. So these are different perspectives coming from different experiences and background. So the question is, what do we want to give our children? I would like to have realistic stories about them, for them.
Okay, thank you. Dato, coming back to nutrition writing, how can we encourage our writers to produce high quality nutrition writing?
Well, I admire what Mohana has done. She has boldly ventured into this scene where she brought in the elements of nutrition, which are serious matters, fruit, nuts, grains, you know, and all the stuff. But she has combined it with fun element and realistic stories about children, and she has been very consistent in all her writings. She is Mohana Gill, the one who writes only about healthy eating, food, and so on. She's consistent, and I think that is a trademark that will stay with her for a long time. She's going to be well known for that. And as IBBY president, as a publisher, I would be continuously happy to talk about her anywhere I go. However, for the Malaysian societies, we probably need to put in a lot more effort, maybe from MBBY, from the schools, and so on, to talk about what Mohana has done. For example, talk about Mohana and the fact that she is writing about healthy eating for children, which is a useful theme and topic for children and teachers, for parents and teachers alike. We must continuously encourage and engage with adults who many of them have yet to see the attributes and the true values being put in the book. So I'm hoping that through the programs like this, demonstrations, storytellings, which Mohana has participated on many occasions, we'll be able to garner more interest and support for publications like this. I think that's key.
Okay. What about you, Mohana? Because of course you also need to encourage other people to write. Okay, you mentioned earlier in the program that this is one of the few books, of, if not the book in Malaysia, that talk about nutrition for children and young people.
I think because it's easy to tell a story, Prof. But I think if you tell a story where you are going to talk about nutrition and you're going to talk about health, etc., then I think a little bit more thought perhaps will have to go into that. And also, I think I want everybody to remember that it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So we need that all the time to know that our target has got to be children. We have got to start them from very, very small. And that's why sometimes in the book, Prof, if you see, they go to the farm and they see how the pineapple tree grows. If you ask a lot of our children today, where does your pineapple come from? He's going to tell you supermarket. Because he does not know. He does not know that that is how the pineapple grows. So these books, apart from the nutritional part also, so maybe somebody might want to write about how to grow these fruits and vegetables. Maybe we should start to show our children in a small way, even in the schools, to have a little place and let the children plant the seeds and let them see how the seeds grow, and from the seeds how they get these fruits, and then how good these fruits are for you. So I think sometimes it's easy to write a story, whether it is fiction or non-fiction, but I think when you want to bring in a story which is not fiction, which is true, and tell them about what the pineapple looks like or the watermelon looks like. I think maybe some writers may want to start thinking about different aspects of nutrition. You know, I only talk about fruits and vegetables, but they can talk also of so many other things. But again, you must remember, Prof, that when you're talking or you're writing about children or for children, it has not got to be too technical. Because once it becomes too technical, then it's beyond them. You start, it's got this calories, or this has got that many vitamin A, B, C, D, everything, then it becomes a little bit more difficult for them. So it has got to be interesting. Give them enough information that they can digest, not so much information that it goes above their heads, you know.
I personally think, Puan Mohana, that all school libraries should have, this book, and should encourage students, or probably incorporate into teaching materials, because of the educational value. But who actually read your book, and what were the response when reading this book?
Actually, the people who read the books have got to be the parents, because the children are too small. They cannot go to a bookshop and say, I want this book, or I want that. So I think a lot of the onus for this is on the shoulders of the parents. The parents in their own, you see, I think a lot of the parents, we feed their children, but really without being very mindful. And they don't have the time, so they're not going to think about that it has got to be a little bit more. But I think if the parents, and now I think the younger parents are becoming much more mindful about because they learn about obesity and other things, that the food has got to be a little bit more nutritious. So I think that it is the parents, I think when they are mindful, then they'll say, oh, what can I do? Where can I look for an easy recipe? Although a lot of it, as you know, is available everywhere. But I think sometimes if you have a book in your hand and you look at it and you say, oh, watermelon pizza? Okay, come, let's try that, and try it together with the children. So the person who reads the book has got to be the parent, and the parent has got to have the mindset. I sometimes say that your fate is on your plate. I think the fate of the child is on the plate because it depends on what kind of food the mother is going to put on the plate for the child. If your mother is going to give you hamburgers every morning for breakfast, then God help you, right? But again, if your mother is going to be a little bit more mindful and say, oh, he needs a little bit more of fruit, a little bit more vegetables, a little bit more that, and work it out and put it in such a way so that the child has no choice, right? He will eat whatever you put on this plate for him. So it is the parents, actually.
Okay. Mohana, you mentioned earlier that your book is not entirely fiction and not entirely non-fiction, so it's a combination of both, right? So, because in a non-fiction book, you must have researched a lot, and I would like to read, some of the paragraphs here for pineapple. In the wild, pineapple plants can live and fruit for up to 50 years. This is quite new to me. So how do you explain this?
Well, I wanted to give the children information about the fruits, but some what we call fun facts, or sometimes something that is normally you will not think about all these things. So when I was writing the book, then I really went in and did a lot of research to find out. And of course, a lot of this is available. If you look at fun facts, or if you look at what will appeal to the child more than anything else. But I think that when you put in things like that, that becomes a little bit more informative for this. So the child gets a little bit more information, and then he can talk to a friend. Did you know that a pineapple, can live up to 50 years or whatever? Or for example, a pomegranate. How many seeds does a pomegranate have? You don't know and I know, but then I think somewhere in the book I have said that I think pomegranate's got about 200 seeds or something like that. So it's something for the child to think about, and that's not fiction. It is the truth. Okay. And when you talk about fruit and vegetable, again, it is something that you can hold in your hand, so it's not fiction. Yeah. And I try very hard to use Haley and her friend Zach. So these are two little children who tell the children of the world and the Malaysian children about the healthy eating and so on and so forth. And again, we brought in a little pussycat and we got a little dog. And so it makes it a little bit more interesting, for the children. They go to Uncle Joe's farm and the children know, oh, in the farm they're growing all these kinds of fruits.
Okay, Mohana. This is another interesting thing that I want to read to you. This is under mango. Mango leaves are used at Indian weddings to ensure the couple have many children. You yourself, although you were born in Myanmar, you have Indian ancestors. So can you explain more on this?
Well, this is something, it's a tradition. From years, it's come down from my mother to my grandmother. And we've been told that, if you use the mango leaves, you will have, whatever it is. So I suppose we just use this because it was used by our ancestors, and, we just, something that has come down to us over the ages.
Is this non-fiction or fiction?
It's a combination of both, I think so. If you want to believe it, it's fiction. If you don't want to, it is non-fiction. But anyway, it tells a story, and it's interesting. Yes.
Okay. I think we are coming to the end of the session. Dato, if you have any probably advice or things that you want to share about IBBY Malaysia, so that people who listen to this program would like to join and take part in some of your programs.
Thank you, Prof. Before that, about Mohana itself, it just occurred to me that the content of her books, various content, she's got a whole long list of publications to date. But on this particular topic of healthy eating, perhaps we could really have a one full day festival of stories and healthy eating, which we could choreograph well enough so that it becomes educational, informational, as well as fun for children. I'm always intrigued by this. Why do you call a tomato a fruit and not a vegetable? And this is a question which even if you pose to senior adults, they may get the answer wrong. And even in schools. So there are a lot of questions like this. And it could be an eye-opener that could spark off further interest for children into inquiring more about healthy eating, fruits, vegetables, and so on. And at the rate of obesity that's happening amongst the young ones, not by design, but I think more by ignorance in terms of what we consume on a daily basis, there could be a lot more things done using Mohana's books. That's one. It's just a suggestion, but maybe we can take this further. Going back to MBBY, I think MBBY is committed to ensuring that we have more children and young adult stories published from various genres, particularly to appeal for our local population, be it children, young adults, parents, and seniors alike. Because, like Mohana mentioned, you don't want to mend broken men. You want to have strong children. So the power of stories, as in our 38th Congress theme, the power of stories is not only about taking one onto a journey of an exploration about finding out more or knowledge or quest and so on, but it's also about looking at yourself. So we always say that, a children's story or children's book is about opening the window out to the world as well as a mirror onto yourself. Now, when we want to do this, we must also realize and accept the fact that Malaysia, being such a beautiful country, we're so colorful, we are so diverse in terms of population, religion, culture, and so on. But do we really know who we are? The world wants to know who we are. We are not only the world's tallest twin tower, KLCC. Now we are only talking about the next second tallest tower in the world, which is going to be completed. But it's also about the soul, food for the soul. What do our children talk about, read about? And what they read and what they know will have to come from adults. Adults as in teachers, as in parents, as in elders, and so on. So if we have folk tales, we should celebrate them. If we have stories, we should celebrate them. We should also have stories of today in relation to today's children for tomorrow. As I mentioned just now, a child may find it amusing to step onto the water puddle or the mud puddle and take it as that's fun, looking at the mud being splashed all around and in the process dirtying his clothes. But he can also be comforted by the fact that if he reads the book and finds that mom finds it equally amusing and does not reprimand him, and then advises him about not to do it so often because it entails more work in cleaning up. So it becomes a very deliberate form of educating oneself. And I think there's a lot of value in there, rather than the, we were known as a tiger economy and we have tiger moms and so on. I think maybe we could change that perception, instead of being so hard on the young people, but gradually develop them, because we want our young people to be articulate, to be sensitive, to be understanding and so on. The other part is, of course, about accepting diversity, which is very important within our society, because we are, by natural forces, since we were there, since Merdeka, we are a very diverse country. But do we see acceptance of diversity today at all levels? I think this question, need not be debated here, but I have some concerns, and I think books and stories can help in a big way, especially if it's made available for families and in schools as part and parcel of the reading curriculum. So while we have stories, we want people to read. It'll be very nice to hear the king and the queen reading a children's storybook to the children of Malaysia. But we do not want them to read a storybook about Christmas, do we? The white Christmas. We like to hear our stories. That will make it interesting. Every child would, I don't know, but maybe I like to relate to myself. I recall fondly the days when I sat and listened to stories by my grandmother. She's gone, but you remember her fondly. Will my grandchildren remember me as that? But if I'm not a reader, and I don't know stories, I have nothing to tell. Are parents today thinking like me? Or we are too busy chasing the rat race? Because people retire at 60, no more at 55. Lifelong learning or lifelong whatever work and so on made everybody busy. So kids are left in the hands of caregivers, mates coming from various countries. Our children speak English like foreigners speak because of where they come from. Wonderful, children are wonderful. They're so energetic and they're so smart. They pick up things very fast. So we are not taking advantage of that speed and power that they have by putting in a lot of our own vitamins, I call it, but rather we let others put in whatever is available. So maybe roja is the right word, I'm not sure. But this is where I think MBBY could play a role. We will not be able to change the world, but we have our role. And I'm excited because I see more and more people getting involved into children's stories and children publishing lately, or in the past few years. MBBY would not like to take full credit for it, but I think MBBY has made or conducted many programs and talks and seminars and promoted activities which has gone around the country, the region, as well as having some impact in IBBY International that has perhaps made more people realize about what MBBY does. So we have to get more support from others, the government, the Ministry of Education, Higher Education, Ministry of Women Affairs, Religious Minister, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, King, Queen, Sultans, and so on. Because fundamentally, reading should be our greatest aim to achieve. Because when you can read, you read everything. Every adult in us enjoy life today because we're able to read so many things. but are we giving children the same opportunity? Literature, for example, is so least understood. Literature is now English and English for A+ in SPM. Whereas literature nowadays is Shakespeare, Enid Blyton, and whatnot. And we didn't have too many fond memories of having to memorize Shakespeare and participate in whatever activities there. But it stayed with us and became useful for us later in our life. So that's where we are. And moving forward, I'm hoping to be able to showcase the great Malaysian children literature story to the world during the 38th IBBY Congress next year, to the world, at the same time sharing with Malaysia the world's best experts in literature, storytelling, writing, illustration, and so on, to share, to come and share with us about what they have achieved, or rather how they have got to where they are. A fine example is Hans Christian Andersen, is 1804. But Hans Christian Andersen remained relevant till today. The stories have been retold, rewritten, re-illustrated by so many people that it has become a gift to the children of today in certain parts of the world. There is even a Hans Christian Andersen Award by IBBY International, which is being said to be like the Children's Nobel Prize for the world. So that's how it has evolved. Malaysia stands to gain a lot if we are able to focus on understanding why and how people do certain things in a certain way for children in other countries, so that we can emulate, not copy, we emulate so that we can produce better things. So that's where we hope to get to in the near term for Malaysia IBBY. Beyond that, we will have to train our successors to this society, because we cannot remain forever. I've been around since 2006. It's been very long, but we'll be around as advisors and so on. I think that can be done.
Okay,
Can I?
Yes, please.
Yes. Just there's something that I wanted to say, talking about Haley and introducing Haley in all my books. The whole idea, if I may, I just want to show everybody that through these books, Haley will become an ambassador. She will help to unite children through food, becoming part of the global family of healthy and happy children. This is Malaysia's gift to the world. So this is what I want to do.
Thank you, Puan Mohana. That is the best conclusion, actually, for our program today.
So I hope everybody will, give
Okay.
Haley a little bit of importance.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, Mohana. Thank you for
Welcome.
being able to come here to talk in this book talk series. And to Dato also, we appreciate it very much that you are able to join us actually in this talk. And I would also like to thank all the technical people who has been working from the morning, although there are glitches in the beginning. And we hope that we are going to continue with other series. So with that, thank you very much. Yes. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you. Prof, do you think we will be able to show this on the... Yes. Yeah, I'll leave that. Yeah. I thought that would be nice, yeah? Great.